Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Never before in the history of sports podcasts have two men brought you opinion and analysis like these two. They speak for a city that's desperate for wins and titles, not whining and travesty. You might not agree with what they have to say, but you'll defend their right to say it. Sports fans across the world, from Chicago, Illinois, this is the Mac and Reed Show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on the Barroom Network. We're streaming live on YouTube on a lovely Thursday evening. Remember to follow the Barroom Network at Barroom Network. Like, subscribe. Tell a friend or two. Follow them on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Follow me at The Real Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. Check out iTunes and Spotify for the audio-only versions of this and so many other great shows. Good evening, Ross. How are you?
Good evening to you, to everybody out there. We are 1 week before Turkey Day. So
1 week before Turkey Day. That's right.
Get your jogging pants ready.
Get them ready, baby.
I never know why people wear jeans and slacks and other non-elastic wear for Thanksgiving. It makes zero sense to me.
You know, I was the dude for Halloween, and I got the perfect sweatpants for the occasion now. I'm just going to wear those, brother.
That's right. There you go.
Nice and elastic, as you alluded to, Ross. We have a lot to get to on the show today, as we'll be talking about the Bears as they prep for the Lions, and they will be with Justin Fields. So long, Tyson Bagent. And then a couple other injury notes and what to expect in that game against the Lions as the Bears travel to Ford Field. And then we'll talk about the NFL as well at length. We got a good one tonight, kicking off this Week 11 with the Bengals at the Ravens on Prime Video. And we'll talk about the rest of NFL headlines going around. NBA, nice and chippy already. Got some good storylines in the association, of course. And then, we'll throw some Turkey Day discussion in there towards the end. And there's the surprises along the way, as usual. But let's begin, Ross, as we usually do, with the Chicago Bears as they prep this 3-7 team, last in the division, getting ready to take on the red-hot Lions. And again, the Lions are red-hot. They're an offensive juggernaut. They are really they really have hit their stride this season. They're great. They're everything you would want the Bears to be, of course, at this point. And they face them 2 weeks after that game on Sunday. 7-2. They're 3-1 at home. Dan Campbell has a great squad right now. Jared Goff using all his weapons. They have a great two-headed monster now with David Montgomery. It'll be a bad blood game with him facing his former team. And then Jahmyr Gibbs is a great, young running back out there. They got problems all over for the Bears defensively, right? With the skilled wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, tight end everywhere. They're loaded. That's a challenge. But I think headlines going into this game certainly go to Justin Fields making a comeback with 7 games to go here in the rest of this season, and had a poor start, as we know, a poor season so far, or not only a poor start, just a rough one for Justin. And now, with his thumb being fully healed and having a lot of time to recoup at this point, you hope that he can, we don't expect wins. Frankly, I don't want them just for draft purposes, but you want to see what you have in this young man, because it's still a case of where the Bears go from here at quarterback and into the near future. Do you go and you're sitting on that Carolina pick at number 1? You want to give Justin Fields a great weapon and a Marvin Harrison? Or are you just straight up resetting? You trading that pick for more talent as far as offensive line around him? That's a whole nother question that I feel like a lot of Bears fans and football heads are more interested in talking about than the Bears. But let's start with Justin Fields, Ross, and coming back. Are you ready to see him? What are your expectations for him missing this time and coming back to face a tough Lions team Sunday?
I am ready to see him, especially coming off of what we saw recently from Tyson Bagent. Obviously Justin is the better quarterback for the Bears right now and going forward for the rest of the season. He comes in this game with a 1-5 record on the season and 6-25 in his young NFL career, but it's not so young at this point, right? And I know quarterback wins and losses are not an accurate stat. It's not completely on them, but start to dig deep into the numbers before he got hurt. 61% completion percentage. That's his highest in his career so far. He had 11 touchdowns. He had 6 interceptions. So the interception percentage was still a little bit high, 3.7%. And his quarterback rating was the highest in his career at 91. And the rushing numbers were down. Unfortunately, the sack percentage was still a little high. It's at 12.9%. So what you want to see from him going forward is this is now a 7-game audition for him, either with the Chicago Bears or with potentially his next team that might trade for him. You want to see him be able to stay healthy and stay on the football field and start to string together quality performances, because I do think there's still a very talented football player there, whether it is in Chicago or it's not. And he's still a very young guy, and he's got to kind of right the ship of a little bit of his career and get it back on track. And, a lot has got to be said as to whether he will be the quarterback for the Bears next year. The team's record has a lot to do with that. The Carolina Panthers record has a lot to do with that. And also Justin Fields' performance has a lot to do with that. I don't think we're in any position, right now at this moment to speak on that. There's still so much to be played out with 7 games left in the season. I just think we all hope that we can go out there on Sunday and start to see more explosive, exciting plays for him, and he clean up the mistakes that he had before, the turnovers, the sacks, missing the layups and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's no question, Ross. You touched on all that and the mistakes that he had made thus far, and you touched on all of his stats. And right now he's projected to finish with 2,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, something like that. You'd hope he exceeds that, and that in the past, and the last time he was at Ford Field, his offensive line was terrible, and we know that. There's certainly, it looks like, Cody Whitehair, the Bears will be without him going into that game. And then Lucas Patrick will have to check in lieu of, some better options for the Bears offensive line. It's been in flux, and it's hard for an NFL quarterback to get any consistency, in any of these games, especially a comeback game like this, where he's coming off the shelf after missing whatever it was, 3 games, something like that. It's tough. And I don't know who this is. A new fan. I love it. Osoyo's wine tasting. Look at that. Fields 1-10 against the NFC North. He does need a big game. And you figure him being healthy plays into that, right? And getting these reps, having that long layoff from that Thursday game where the Bears were able to beat Carolina in an ugly one. And Ross just, giving people free money with his predictions, by the way. You got to keep it locked here on Mac and Reed for all that and follow him at Ross Reed. No question. But this is a tough test. I certainly think with Justin Fields, if you are Luke Getsy and you're Eberflus and you're trying to just play a spoiler to the Lions and knock them down a peg, you're going to want to have some, run option plays for Justin Fields and let him sort of light it up. You look at how Justin Fields, I saw this stat earlier, has played or has thrown the ball after 20 plus yards downfield. He's 13 for 26, 332 yards, 6 touchdowns, a great rating, and then play mistake free if you're Justin. Obviously the coaching can't control that, but you figure, again, if this is an audition, whether to stay with the Chicago Bears or to go to another team in the NFL, he's going to try his best to ball out in 7 games, just with his feet, with his arm, whatever he can do. He has those great weapons around. We know that Cole Kmet has emerged as one of those best young tight ends out there. DJ Moore is due for one of those games. We've seen flashes of Darnell Mooney. They got to get after it, and hopefully they can, despite injuries and everything moving around here. So do you have a prediction for a sort of stat line for Justin on Sunday, Ross? What are you feeling?
I think that we have seen the Bears offense kind of have the guardrails up the last couple of weeks. I'm getting ready because my son's 7th birthday parties on Sunday. We're bowling, and you know how they put the little
Oh
guardrails up for
yeah,
the kids. I think that's what we saw the last couple of weeks, the bumpers with the Tyson Bagent offense. They're not able to get as vertical down the field, because he just wasn't that kind of quarterback. I think the Bears are going to want to try to get back to that this week. Also, because for the first time since early in the season, they have their 5 best offensive linemen on the field on Sunday. Braxton Jones is going to be starting at left tackle. You've got Tevin Jenkins at guard, and Patrick at center, and Nate Davis comes back, and Darnell Wright comes back. So that's going to be your best protection. You're going to need it because Hutchinson and a couple of those guys on the Lions, they get after the quarterback. But I think Justin, and he said it in his comments this week, he heard the noise over the quarterback controversy that is since not a controversy anymore, but he's 100% going to want to push the football downfield and get this offense going vertical again. And guess what? Against the Lions, you're going to have to do that because that's the kind of offense that they're going to try and match with you out there. This is an indoors game. It's in Detroit. We know guys like Amara St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs, they like to play fast. They've got Laporta, who's an outstanding young tight end. He's great in open field with the football. The Bears are going to have, if they want to even be in this football game, they're going to have to keep it close by pushing the football down the field a little bit. And so I expect DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney and Scott to get more chances down the field. Khalil Herbert looks like he's coming back as they waived Darlington Evans today. So you're going to get more explosive on the run game as well. So I think we'll see a few 20-plus yard plays from Justin Fields in that offense.
That would be nice. You figure you throw out records sometimes when these divisional matchups, and Detroit is very good on paper, but obviously much better than the Bears for all these players that Ross has mentioned. And look at Penei Sewell, who is, Noah Sewell, who's cousin of Penei. Pasta.
Yeah, they're definitely related. I thought they were brothers. There's a lot of Sewells in the NFL.
There's a lot of Sewells, though. They have that NFL blood in them. Anyways, he's, a Pro Bowl caliber offensive lineman who's incredible. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa failed to record a pressure against them when they just played the Chargers this past Sunday. So, you look, as well as Justin obviously needs to play for them to be even in that game. It's a tough task for that defense, especially the pass rushers there. You hope that Montez Sweat can, show us why he got the bag, right? You hope that there's some pressure. If you're Eberflus and this defense, what do you have to lose? Again, when you're playing against the NFC North, you want to really, and this Lions offense that can just move the football at ease, at will, then you want to create some, interesting blitz packages. You want to just get creative with it. And I think at this point, it's one of the toughest passing attacks to stop in the NFL. So that secondary has a tough job in front of them. I mean, it might get out of hand if the defense can't keep it together, but we can see that we will see if Justin Fields can, come from behind. He's again going to play without any reckless abandon or with reckless abandon. I feel like because he's playing for his job and for his career at this point.
Yeah, to me, if you're looking at Eberflus in defense, it's going to have to be an old school bend but don't break defense. I expect a lot of cover 2 in this game. I expect a lot of zone. I expect the Bears to keep both safeties over the top, Eddie Jackson and Jaquan Brisker, and to not allow the Lions to beat them deep over the field. The last thing you want to do is see guys like Josh Reynolds and Amon St. Brown and some of their big play explosive guys get past the secondary and get down the football field because you don't want to give up 7 points in chunks. Just this season alone, they've scored, they're 7-2, they've scored 21 points, 31 points, 20, 34, 42 against the Panthers, 20. They got blown out by the Ravens, only 6 points there, 26 points against the Raiders, and they're coming off of a 41-point game against the Chargers, and so they're right in that 28-yard, that 26 point it's the game kind of average. You want to keep them around 24 points if you can. If you keep them slightly below their average and hope that your offense can match that, then you can make it a ball game. Also, it'd be nice if this defense got a takeaway every now and then, right? It'd be nice if this defense can put their offense on a short field. maybe get pressure on Jared Goff, like you mentioned. This is a game where you like to see guys like Yannick Ngakoue and Montez Sweat show up. This is a game where you'd like to see a guy like Eddie Jackson be able to be placed center field and pick a ball off and kind of flip the script a little bit. Because I think if this Bears want to win this game, they got to avoid the explosive plays on defense. You got to win the battle on offense in terms of the 20-plus yard chunk plays. But then they also have to win the takeaway battle, which goes all the way back to our conversation of Justin Fields taking care of the football, and you hopefully try and get a few away from Goff. Hey, listen, this is a division game. And usually, I know the Bears have been really bad in division games, and no matter Eberflus only has like one division win in his career. But typically, the mantra is you're supposed to throw out all the rules in division games. And from a betting standpoint, usually one of the safest bets is, a lot of times you pick the road underdog, to cover at least in division games. So hopefully the Bears can keep this close. I think it's about 8.5 right now is the spread.
7.5 was what I just saw
no.
for ESPN. Very close, Ross. Tough. You were throwing out just Detroit's numbers as well, and they are top 5 in passing. They're top 5 in rushing, top 5 in points for it, almost 27 a game. They're an impressive team, and they look like nothing will knock them off the path of going to the playoffs and representing the NFC North at this point. But to play spoiler and to get confidence again, like was pointed out in the comments, that the Bears are more healthy than they have been probably all season. Getting Justin Fields back now to boot is huge, and I am curious to see if that defense can stop the Lions and just this juggernaut offense that is really rolling right now. But the Bears offense, again, on the note of health and the injury report, Noah Sewell questionable. We just talked about the relation with Penny. And Khalil Herbert coming off IR is huge. Deontay Foreman, he was limited in practice. I think he'll give it a go, at least, to spell Khalil Herbert, who will be, fresh off the shelf as well here. Let's get predictions, Ross. What do you got? You got a low-scoring game or affair, or what you think? I feel like a low-scoring affair might be in order, but we'll see.
I don't know. I actually think that we'll get some points in this game. But also remember, from the Lions standpoint, they might be, Dan Campbell kind of hinted at this already. So it's on his radar. But they might be looking ahead. Remember, they play a short week. They've got the 11 o'clock Thanksgiving game. So they really only have about a good 4.5, 5 days or so, to get ready between two football games. So they might be peeking ahead a little bit, catch the Bears off guard. Yeah, off guard a little bit. I'm not going to pick the Bears to win. I do think that they can keep this football game close, and I do like the points in this game. I would pick the Lions 27-24 over the Bears.
Ooh, look at that. I see. That's pretty high scoring there, considering the Bears have been towards the bottom of the league as far as their points for. I can't pick the Bears to win on the road. Ford Field's a tough place for them to play. And I think the Lions crack 30, I'd say 31, and the Bears, it's tough for them, 21. But, the offense, again, that first game back for Justin Fields, I just feel like there's no way in hell a win is coming. And he's going to struggle. I think he's going to have a couple turnovers because he's going to take those chances. Whether they're good chances or not, it remains to be seen. He sometimes has fumbleitis, and certainly looks like he makes some bad decisions. Throwing into coverage, or throwing to, if miscommunication with a receiver, something like that could certainly happen. But for the Bears to stay in this game, they're going to try and pound it, but they'll have to probably get away from the run at some point. I think just Jared Goff and this offense is too much for the Bears.
Yeah, I expect, if Luke Getsy's smart, I'm not sure if he always is, but I expect a lot of misdirection from the Bears. Listen, that Lions pass rush, led by Hutchinson, they're going to want to play fast and downfield. They're going to want to really attack the quarterback, especially a guy that has had a splint on his thumb for the last 4 weeks, from 4+ weeks now. So if I'm the Bears, I run a lot of misdirection. I run a lot of counter plays, and I really like Justin Fields a lot as a read option here, and allow him to get the football out of his hands quickly, but still play action and let him take some shots when needed.
I was at Soldier Field last year when they played the Lions, hosted the Lions at home, and Justin Fields broke off one of those 50, 60-yard runs. Let's see some of that, Justin. Let's see, for old time's sake, that Justin that was running amok overall NFL defenses last season. Shout out to special teamer Cairo Santos, by the way, who notched his 200th career field goal last Thursday, and he's a dog, man. I mean, the kickers have been pretty sketchy. You just think back to Cody Parkey. We were lucky enough to see, a lot of Robbie Gould's career, and then of course you didn't pay him, and he continues to be a great kicker. But they really lucked into Cairo Santos, who a lot of teams would be lucky to have at this point. And kicking at Soldier Field is tough. At a lot of places he kicks on the road. He could kick like a 55-yarder with ease. Love it.
Yeah, and remember we were talking about all the years of Soldier Field and turf and stuff like that, and he actually came out and complimented the turf change this week and said the Bermuda grass has been amazing and it's been a godsend to his career as a Bear. So you figure the one thing that Matt Eberflus has done right in his career is bringing that Bermuda grass to Soldier Field.
There you go. The Brazilian loves it, Cairo Santos. That Bermuda grass. All right, that's enough about the Bears. Let's switch focus to the rest of the NFL, and not too much changing amongst the power rankings. I know we just talked about Detroit. I mean, you got to put them in the top 5 as far as teams to look out for as we get closer and closer to the playoffs in the league. The Eagles and Chiefs are continuing to roll. Eagles 8-1, Chiefs 7-2 at this point. And then the Ravens, we get a good one tonight. I know we were singing, the Bengals praises. They're still hitting some rough patches or still trying to losing some close ones. It's tough sledding, but they have a great game against the Ravens tonight. Ravens really playing great. 49ers as well. We know Jacksonville playing well at the right time here. Outside of the Chiefs and Eagles, it's easy to say the Lions and the Ravens. I know we've talked about, but there's someone, you feel like the favorites are the Niners and of course the Eagles to go and represent the NFC. The Chiefs, it's hard to pick against them to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Maybe one of these newcomers like the Ravens or the Jaguars. Like, who are you feeling can challenge the last year's Super Bowl representatives the most, Ross?
Yeah, my goodness, it's tough. I mean, in the NFC, clearly it's the 49ers, right? I think that was a get-right game for them last week. They went in there and they absolutely demolished the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, all of a sudden, it's panic city for Trevor Lawrence, right? He doesn't quite look like the guy that we thought was going to take a next step this year and be one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league right now. If you look at everybody's talking about Justin Fields, and we're in our Justin Fields bubble here in Chicago. Go take a look at Trevor Lawrence's stats and then watch him on Sundays. He just does not look comfortable in the pocket. He doesn't look comfortable at all. And he's kind of regressed a little bit this year from last year. And that's got to be a serious concern for them. But the 49ers are just absolutely dominant on offense, on defense. They've got the perfect point guard in Brock Purdy getting the football to all their playmakers. The rich get richer. They added Chase Young to that situation, to that defensive line. He got a sack on Sunday with his old college teammate. Is it Nick or Joey Bosa? Which one of them is in San Francisco? Which one of them were Skims and then which other one is in San Francisco?
I believe that's Nick.
Got it. Whichever is the one that doesn't wear Skims is the one that's in San Francisco, right? Shout out Kim Kardashian.
Shout out Skims.
And then the AFC, I don't know. If we were having this conversation last week, I thought it was going to be Baltimore and Cincinnati, and they both had terrible losses, like just absolutely terrible losses. Yeah. And so this week, they're both playing each other, like literally less than an hour from now. They've got a huge pivotal game for both teams. It feels like I still lean Ravens. I think the Ravens are the better football team, but they think they had a fluky loss on Sunday. Coincidentally, things kind of went to shit for them once Marlon Humphrey got hurt on Sunday, their cornerback, and that's when Watson picked up and started playing a lot better. The Bengals lose tonight. They're 5-5, and they're in jeopardy of missing the playoffs. They're going to have a really hard time, kind of coming back from that. So to me, the AFC is completely up for grabs from now. The Buffalo Bills look like trash on Monday night on offense. They fire Ken Dorsey. We saw he becomes a scapegoat for no reason. Like it's his fault that Josh Allen is fumbling and throwing bad interceptions. I mean, I guess you could still put Miami in there, but Miami doesn't beat over 500 teams. So, it's going to be Kansas City. That's what makes this Monday night game all the more fun. All the Taylor Swift nonsense and meeting the in-laws aside, is you get two of the best teams in football right now coming off buys. You get the Super Bowl rematch, and it's going to tell you a lot about the quality of where those teams are versus the quality of the rest of the league. I still like Baltimore tonight, but listen, for some reason, somehow, some way, Pittsburgh is 6-3, and then they get Cleveland on Sunday without Deshaun Watson. Now, DTR is going to be their starting quarterback, so that could be another win for them. Big game for Miami against Vegas on Sunday as well. So I think, once we start heading into Thanksgiving is when we start seeing more of the contenders rise up and the pretenders start to fall out a little bit.
I like it, Ross. You talked about just the matchup tonight. The Bengals losing to the Texans in a real close one with C.J. Stroud on that game-winning drive as the Bengals hosted the Texans. They lost that one late. And then the Ravens losing against the Browns 33-31. And now, it gets tougher for the Browns, who are actually kind of sneaky good. And now they take a hit at quarterback, though. And they could have had Josh Dobbs, cut from the practice squad, who is now leading the Vikings back from oblivion too. So maybe, and they're getting Justin Jefferson back healthy at the right time. Knows what could happen there. But, looking ahead to this week, I'm with you. I like the Ravens because of that defense. And, as inconsistent as sometimes Lamar Jackson and that offense can be, they just really have a great defense led by, of course, Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen and the linebacking core. And they are just well coached, of course, as well. But Pittsburgh, that whole division is still, they're tough altogether. I know Pittsburgh coming off that win that they certainly needed. But we talk about these other teams that can challenge the teams that were in the Super Bowl last year. And look, we get that Eagles-Chiefs matchup, which is going to be a great one. Outside of that, Steelers-Browns is going to be great. You figure that Raiders-Dolphins might have a little bit of potential to it. The Raiders just had that fresh start and, having a big win with their new coach as they go to travel against Miami. And this is, going to test Miami's record against a 500 team here. And then, the Jaguars, that was crazy to see how Trevor Lawrence and the entire offense just continue to look like they were still on the bye week as they just laid an egg. And really just what they put up 3 points against the 49ers. It was ugly as all hell. I'll tell you what, Jets Bills, that's got some potential as well, as both those teams are fighting for their playoff life. The Jets still clinging to that hope that Aaron Rodgers might come back. As he said, December, he's fucking crazy. He's really taking the ayahuasca to a next level, man. It's unbelievable. Yeah. The Eagles Chiefs Monday night game, though, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are licking their chops. That'll be a fun one. You got an edge in that game? Who do you like in that game, Ross?
It's in Kansas City. It's in Arrowhead. I think the Chiefs coming off a bye week, they didn't look really good on offense. Going into the bye week, I think they rebound, and I think that they take care of business at home on Monday night. I think Pat Mahomes right now, who is the betting favorite to win the MVP. But right behind him is a guy, Jalen Hurts. I think that those two guys are going to try and put on a show. But I think overall, Pat Mahomes will take that one. That is also the highest ticket heading into the NFL weekend. Tickets as low as $298 if you want to go see a Monday night football game in Arrowhead against the Eagles. Can you guess who's the cheapest game of the week?
Let me check the records before. I'm going to try to block out what I got here. It's got to be that. No. I was going to say that Panthers game, but they are hosting the Cowboys. Yeah. Either that or the Commanders. Come on, I got one of them, right?
No, it's actually, if you go to Houston this week, it is the Arizona Cardinals coming into town to see the phenom CJ Stroud. You can actually get into NRG Stadium for $35 this weekend.
Not bad.
Close behind it will be a Jacksonville versus Tennessee game for $48. The Rams, nobody cares about football in LA unless they're really good. Rams versus Seattle for $54. And if you feeling frisky and you did want to go out to Detroit for Bears football, you can still get a ticket for $151.
Man, look at that. That's, again, these tickets go up whenever it's sort of a divisional rivalry game, if you will. So going to see those go up quite a bit there, Ross. Mm-hmm. Again, we check in on the MVP race every week here, I feel like, more or less. And, it's certainly led by the likes of Mahomes in the NFL and Jared Goff having a good season. But Sam Howell, man, I gotta give a shout out to him every week as he continues to lead the league in passing with the Commanders and this cast of like nobodies at wide receiver he's thrown to, making all these guys Dotson look like Jerry Rice out there. And then CJ Stroud, he's right behind him in total yards. It's really impressive. I think that Tyreek Hill, obviously, at his 1,000-yard mark, he's certainly, at a Pro Bowl level, and he's that outside chance for MVP. AJ Brown is the next up to get 1,000. CeeDee Lamb has been playing out of his goddamn mind these last 3 weeks. I think it's 3 straight weeks of over 150 yards, something like that. He went for 190 something like that very recently. Just really impressive. But if you got to give out MVP, who are you giving it to right now, Ross? Are you giving it to one of the young guys, Howell or Stroud, or is it Lamar Jackson still for you?
It's still, to me, actually, I think the winner of Monday night's game will be the leader of the MVP race, and that's Mahomes versus Hurts. Just because, the NFL is always going to side with the team with the best record, right? And they also want to side with the guy that has the pedigree a little bit. I think they'll lean Pat Mahomes because it does play into the narrative that you're looking at a future Hall of Famer right now. And when you start looking at a future Hall of Famer, the media starts to they want to start to reward guys who know that they're going to have that pedigree. So they want to help them stack those MVP trophies. It happens in every single sport. Shohei Ohtani already got his second MVP today. We've seen it before with LeBron and Jordan and stuff like that. That's where Pat Mahomes is right now. And I think that's what hurts Lamar Jackson in his bid. He didn't have a great second half last week, but Lamar, would you call him a Hall of Famer right now? Maybe, maybe not. And so that kind of, as crazy as it sounds, those things kind of hurt his chances because he doesn't have a great record like the Eagles or the Chiefs do. And then he did have a bad half last week, but he's not out of it. But I think right now it is a Hurts Mahomes race. I do think Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and CJ Stroud are all in that second tier. But shout out to CJ Stroud, man. He's playing absolutely outstanding football. He is the best rookie quarterback we've seen since RG3 had that crazy explosive run, right? That huge breakout year that he had. And then before that, you got to go back to the likes of, even Dan Marino for the few games that he came in and stuff like that. So what CJ Stroud is doing is absolutely outstanding. He's going to run away with Rookie of the Year, no questions asked. Offensive Player of the Year will go to one of those wide receivers because they can't give it to the MVP. So you're looking at a guy like Tyreek Hill, Christian McCaffrey, or AJ Brown.
I see. I wouldn't be mad with any of them. I think, CJ Stroud talking about the season he's having. I feel like Cam Newton also had a huge breakout year because he just was able to, when he wasn't able to pass the ball, he was running like a madman, just a touchdown machine. Very impressive. Yeah. Shout out to CJ Stroud. Just really balling out at this point. You talked about the Bills too, and it's tough. I feel like a big headline was Josh Allen's struggles with the Bills. And I know that Tavon Diggs was talking about, quote, let's not forget he didn't start going off till Bro got there. Talking about Stephon. And, maybe there's something to that. Josh Allen just seems to have the interception bug. I don't know what's going on there. Do you think the Bills make the playoffs at this point?
It's going to be tough for them. It's going to be tough for them. They're going to have they're another team that has an uphill battle. I mean, at least for them, I do still think that they got the Patriots again, even though they lost to the Patriots this year. They got the Jets again, even though they lost to the Jets this year as well. So those are two games that they're going to have to win. They're going to have to really start stacking some wins, sooner than later. Every year we see this kind of flux in the NFL where, 5 to 6 teams that were in the playoffs last year usually fall out this year. And, you start looking around, teams like Cincinnati and Buffalo, those two teams are on the watch there. I do think that they can take care of business this week at home against the Jets. I think they get that new bump that a coach comes to the table, right? I don't think Ken Dorsey was at all the problem. And in fact, I think that it was kind of BS that he got fired for that. But, Sean McDermott did something to save his own ass, save his own job. And I do think that it will light a fire a little bit on the Josh Allen, that team. And I think, I think if you are betting this weekend, that's one of the easiest bets of the weekend is take the Buffalo, with the points over the Jets. Because I can't see Zach Wilson keeping that football game close at all in Buffalo. But they need a big win. They need to get back on track because, again, I mean, we're about a week away from December, which means it's go time for teams that do want to make the playoffs.
Certainly need some luck to knock off Miami if they could hit a losing streak. And Bills on the opposite end, they're just hovering at 500 right now. They need to get it together. But the Bills, have been competitive in the past, and they got the tools there. Josh Allen just got to shake out of his funk, you would think. Yeah. Any other NFL notes for you, Ross?
No, I don't think so. You talked about it, super fun to watch Josh Dobbs do what he's doing right now in Minnesota. And also I think that also speaks to, we're seeing a lot of good coaches in the league right now, a lot of good young coaches. You got to give a guy like Kevin O'Connell his credit, right? Who's got that Minnesota thing. He's got the offense humming right now. I don't think a lot of people have talked enough about the job that they're doing in Dallas on offense. Everybody freaked out in Dallas when they got rid of what's the kid now? He's in for the Chargers. So help me out in the comments. The old Kellen Moore. They got rid of Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. Mike McCarthy took over, and then all of a sudden, Dak Prescott looks like one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league, and they're putting up points every single week. They got the Cardinals. They got the Panthers this week. They're going to take care of work as well. But there's some fun young coaches, and then also there's some savvy vets. Look what Mike Tomlin's been able to do to right that ship. They get out yards every week. They in terms of total yards, and yet they're still 6-3. That speaks to the Mike Tomlin effect and how awesome he is as a coach. But circling back to that Minnesota team, all of a sudden that Sunday night game, that's sneaky fun. That's Minnesota in Denver. Denver's playing much better football right now as they took out the Bills on Monday night, and their defense is playing a lot better. And I think people forgot, people were rushed to judgment really quickly, but Sean Payton, he can still coach, and he can still, put some things together. In that Denver situation is starting to look a lot better. So fun game for that one. And I completely agree with Cliff. I would much rather have Ken Dorsey right now than Lou Getsy. Ken Dorsey is not going to be out of a job very long. I actually think this was a blessing for him in disguise, because I think that Buffalo thing is a sinking ship as Josh Allen slowly morphs into his best rendition of Jay Cutler or Jeff George. And I think Ken Dorsey will be much better served on a team like the Bears potentially, or let's say a guy like Ben Johnson gets a head coaching gig and the Lions need a new offensive coordinator, or let's say a guy like Bobby Slowick down in Houston gets a head coaching gig because of what he's doing with CJ Stroud, and they need an offensive coordinator as well. Ken Dorsey's going to be just fine.
Love it. Looking ahead to these head coaching candidates for your Chicago Bears at this point too, because they're not good right now. Matt Eberflus, of course, he's watching. He calls my landline from time to time to complain. If you're a consistent watcher of the episodes here on YouTube or listening to your show here, let's switch to the hardwood, Ross, and the NBA and the Bulls. We'll touch on them before getting to the rest of the association because they're bad. They're 4-8. A lot of the conversation is just how bad they are and what do you do to get out of that losing, sort of atmosphere that they have at this point when they just haven't been competitive for a long time. They were in a play-in game last year, which, they lost to the Heat, who went on that run. But, starting out 4-8, now it's, we talked about the props last week. We talked about DeRozan maybe being traded at the deadline, and I said no to that. But now you're looking at your best asset to a lot of folks, and that would be Zach LaVine. And Zach LaVine, rumored because he's got that clutch connection to go somewhere. Rich Paul's going to advocate for him as one of the best young guards out there. And he's, obviously frustrated. He keeps dodging the trash talk as any player would. You wouldn't really give that the time of day. He said, quote, "Right now is not the time to really talk about that." This was before the Magic game where they lost. He said, quote, "Play the Orlando Magic tonight, try to get a win," which they didn't. "If something comes out later on, that will be the time I talk about it." There's certainly potential, with the Lakers to have a trade there, the connection with Rich Paul and obviously LeBron's, that they're tied at the hip a lot of times. But he has a lot of clout to just take him anywhere. I don't know if LaVine will be sick of Chicago to that extent in this organization. He already got the bag, but he certainly wants to be on a more competitive team at this point. And the Bulls don't really have a closer in LaVine. and a great focal point here. Like, what's your feeling on Levine at this point? You think he'll be traded by the deadline? You got a good landing spot for him?
Yeah, I think it's over. I think this whole situation's over. The Bulls, starting five, led by their supposed big three, they have a net, a negative rating. So their offensive rating, their defensive rating is worse than their offensive rating. They literally, when they're on the court, they are predisposed to giving up more points than they get. And when you get that out of your starting five and your big three, that means that it's time to break those guys up. Zach LaVine was sitting courtside at the United Center on Tuesday night with Rich Paul, who was obviously the head of Clutch Sports, who was also his agent and LeBron's agent and an agent to a lot of other superstars around the league. And LaVine was sitting there with a blue Clutch sweatshirt on, and I think that was very telling that he's done. He's about ready to get up out of Chicago. I think it would behoove the Bulls to oblige him. I think they should. I think it's best for both sides. As much as I do like Zach LaVine, I think more than most people, and because he's a clutch player. You can only put big market teams in this conversation because he's not going to go to a small market city. That's just not what Clutch does for all-star players. So he's either going to go to the LA Lakers, or he's going to go to the Miami Heat, or he's going to go to the New York Knicks. It's going to be one of those three teams. And if it's the Knicks or the Heat, theoretically the Bulls can make that trade right now if they wanted to, because both those teams have the assets in place right now to make that move. If it's the Lakers, they do have to wait until December 15th if they wanted to add D'Angelo Russell into the trade for salary purposes. If they wanted to add Austin Reeves into the trade for salary purposes, they have to wait until January 15th for that. So, we'll see. I do think that eventually LA is probably the move for Zach. He's a West Coast kid. He's been rumored to be out there for a long time. When he's in his offseason, he lives in California, with his wife and child. So I'm sure that that's where he's pushing to go. And the Lakers, quite frankly, they need it because, LeBron's out there. He got a triple-double last night, but Anthony Davis had like 6 points. You're wasting LeBron James seasons in year 26 or whatever it is right now. He should not be 40 years old, still carrying the football team the basketball team offensively. So to me, it makes sense for the Lakers too, because anytime you have that ticking clock with LeBron, it's desperation mode. And I think it helps the Bulls because LeBron James will not be in the league 3 or 4 years from now. So if you get a 2026 unprotected first round pick, that has a high potential to be a top 5 pick, maybe, so you have to start looking forward to the future. And unfortunately, it's time to blow it up.
Yeah, I'm of the mindset. I talked, in the last couple of weeks about when we've talked about the Bulls, about that big three and just how disappointing it is of Vooch and DeRozan and LaVine and Vooch and DeRozan obviously getting up there too. Their days are numbered as the Bulls, as you've seen what has transpired on the court with that big three, and then supporting cast around them, like and they have good quality players. I don't know what it is, like why they just can't put it together. Like Alex Caruso is a great two-way player, right? And LaVine, might not have that clutch gene. He's averaging a little over 21 points, so you wonder what a return for this guy would be, especially when you're taking on that huge contract. But LA prints money, as you said, Ross, if that was perhaps the destination. But you need to look, if you're the Bulls, at what, I harp on it a lot, is what the Thunder have done in stockpiling picks and what the Celtics do too, as far as just, you're playing a numbers game. You got to hit on some of these at some point. But we also harp on management just being just atrocious, and to the point where, the White Sox can't keep Jason Benetti because Jerry Reinsdorf is such a joke. But I digress. And the Bulls, it's, as much as we talk about the Bears being so deserving of a great quality football team, getting these blue chip prospects, show me the Chicago Bulls. You can't get these great coveted free agents if you're the Bulls right now, for whatever reason, even with AK in there and the rest of this front office, maybe because of that ownership to an extent. It's pretty crazy when you talk about big markets and players wanting to go there. You would think so. It's because this theme over the last several years of Billy Donovan and this supporting cast, it's just too inconsistent, too consistent losing, that is. You know, when you're consistently a 9 seed or maybe an 8 seed in the East, it's tough. For a while, you went through LeBron, and maybe that was the excuse, but now I don't know what it is and what's it going to take. You got to get creative, and it's pretty clear. It's like a year too late, honestly, where this experiment of this big three has not worked. So you got to go, and it's going to be, you know, a year or two of rebuilding, especially if you go try to get into the lottery and just start to try to tank. It sucks as a fan, and just seeing, you know, the potential that the Bulls could have as an organization, to see it just come to this point, and especially with the Levine talks. But he's got to go. I'm with you. I got to see him gone by the deadline and get as much as he can for him.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, listen, we have in Chicago right now, you know, some of the worst owners in all of sports, and it's because they do everything half-ass, you know, and that's where you're at with the Bulls right now. That's where you're at with the White Sox. You know, even the Cubs, although the Cubs are rumored to get Ohtani, go get them. Like you have the money, you have the resources, you have Wrigley Field, that place prints money, that neighborhood prints money. You know, start acting like you are the second or third biggest city in the United States. This is a big market. You know, we see it with the Bears all the time, right? The Bears run their organization like a mom and pop organization. That's why we hope that, you know, Kevin Warren can come in and, you know, treat this more like a business and like a CEO, you know, of a major corporation, and get this back on track, right? And so from, you know, the Bulls standpoint, you know, Jerry Reinsdorf, as long as people are going to show up to the United Center because the statue is there and the banners are in the rafters, and you know, we all grew up to be Jordan fans, he's going to keep going with the status quo. I will say, I checked the attendance today. Bulls are at 92% capacity for United Center, which is down over the years. They're 23rd right now in percentage full in the NBA, and that means that there's some apathy starting to set in right now. People don't want to spend $200-300 to go to a Bulls game and watch a bad basketball team. I do think that will continue to trend down, and then that's going to force the Bulls to really to make a move and have to do something different.
Changes got to come for the Chicago Bulls, hopefully, to reclaim some of the glory days and get this franchise pointed in the right direction. We shall see. Was 5 games enough for Draymond doing a little chokehold on Gobert, Ross?
I wouldn't have suspended him at all. I think everybody around the league hates Rudy Gobert. This is kind of what Draymond
held on to him for like 30 seconds.
I grew up watching basketball in the 80s where guys got like clotheslined and like knocked into the 4th row, and Rick Mahone would body slam somebody. He's fine. He's fine. This is what you bring Draymond in for, is to be the hockey enforcer for guys like Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. Anytime he sees one of those two Splash Brothers in an altercation, Draymond Green is just going to go Hulk and just flip everybody out the screen. And I like it. That's what he's there to do. That's why they got so many championships. That's why they've been together for all these years. I like it. I think it's fun. I think it's good for basketball. I like villains in sports. I think we talked about this before. Draymond Green is clearly a villain. He embraces it. But guess what? Rudy Gobert is also a villain. He started COVID. Nobody likes Rudy Gobert. Those two have a history with each other. And, 5 games is fine. I'm sure Draymond at his age needs the 5 games off to rest his knees anyway. 82 games is too long for a season anyway. So he's probably like, listen, I'll go out and take my family to Hawaii for a week for 5 games and be all good.
Speaking of the old guys needing rest, Lakers LeBron James says he doesn't feel 38. Quote, nothing I cannot do except play those 82 games, unfortunately. Not a shot at LeBron, but a little bit. You know, it's tough when you start to, even LeBron has been playing for 20 seasons at this point. It wears on them. I don't know how you feel about all this load management, but you pay, especially this NBA is trying to experiment with these repercussions and trying to get the superstars to I love they had their tiers of superstar players who can't miss this amount of games too this season. Adam Silver is getting real creative with it. But I mean, LeBron, it's still impressive for anybody who's 38. I know we talk about Jordan, dropped 50 at 40 years old. But dude, it's a grind on these guys. If you ever seen LeBron's feet, he's suffering. Google LeBron's feet, man.
It's impressive, but also guys are much smarter with their body these days. They've got dietitians and personal chefs and hyperbaric chambers and trainers and massage therapists, and they've got he probably spends like a few $1,000,000 alone a year on his body. We're just much smarter about how we take care of ourselves in sports, but it's still awesome. But the NBA season is way too long. It needs to be 72 games. I've said that for a long time, and it's way too long. You would have a much better product in the playoffs. Guys wouldn't be hurt as much. People don't even care about the NBA until right around Christmas Day anyway. And so we're really like a month and a half away from people kind of even paying attention to it. And then the playoffs don't even get started until April into May. So, it's just a long grind, and that season definitely needs to be shortened down.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I've advocated for knocking off 10 games, something like that, for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to some quick hits, Ross. We were talking about the NFL, and I was baffled to see Carissa Thompson saying she admits to completely making up NFL sideline reports, and pretty much every sideline reporter that you could think of came to just tear her a new what. Rightfully so. And one person pointed out that's quite a way to fumble the bag and risk being fired just to have a spicier take on a podcast. What a shit look there. What are you doing? Where she just got this big payday with Amazon. That's crazy. And just so disrespectful to the craft. Oh my God.
That's the thing is I have a degree in journalism. On the first day of journalism 101, the first thing they teach you, rule number 1, don't lie. And I know a lot of people do it in the industry, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean that she has to do it. I also think that if that's not something that you don't want to put in the work, because she does do a lot of other things. She talked about, she hosts the Amazon show. She has a lot of other opportunities. We've preached this a long time in journalism. Let the younger people step up and take those positions. There are tons of quality, talented young journalists out there that are willing to put in the legwork and talk to the third string running back on a Tuesday and get a cool story that she can use during the game and stuff like that. So I think this is an opportunity, and this is the biggest blind spot in all this is we have a lot of young journalists that are not able to get into the industry because a lot of the other people don't want to relinquish one of these 17 jobs that they have. These are the opportunities a lot of these young people come in and let them do those jobs, because clearly she doesn't want to do it. If she doesn't want to do the work, she doesn't have to. She's got good money. She's doing well, doing other things.
Facts, doing well, but that's bad luck, Carissa. Major League Baseball owners voted today, to allow the A's to move to Las Vegas. Las Vegas becoming the hub, and we, towards the end of the MLB season, we kind of saw the writing on the wall, and all of Oakland sports just departing. Remember the days of the Raiders and A's sharing that trash field together. God, the slipping on the infield was insane to me. That'll be good for the A's. That'll be even more of an appeal to, obviously, Las Vegas. Are you for it, Ross?
I'm definitely for it. Vegas is turning into a much needed sports hub. Obviously, for obvious reasons, gambling is going to highly dictate the sport, but from an infrastructure standpoint, they can certainly handle it. Who doesn't want to watch their favorite baseball team play in Vegas and then do stuff on the strip, watch shows, restaurants, stuff like that? They got F1 this weekend. I was there about a month ago where they were building out F1. It was really cool. They're going to get an NBA team within the next 3 to 5 years. That is a given. So yeah, this has been a long time coming. I think sports leagues have shied away from Vegas because they thought that gambling was a kind of a tough spot on them, but now they're starting to embrace it, and it's good to see. It's good to see the people of Vegas starting to get all these teams. It sucks for Oakland though, because Oakland is a great sports city. It's a cool blue collar city, and what you're essentially telling people is unless you don't give us tax money and subsidize these stadiums, we're going to take our teams and put them elsewhere. I worry about the White Sox. Are you going to take the White Sox away from me and move them somewhere else because we don't want to pay for a $750 million stadium? So that's the sucky part.
God, if they went to Nashville, never hear the end of it, man. Speaking of Vegas, the hospitality workers competed in the housekeeping Olympics this past week, Ross. If you were to compete in the housekeeping Olympics, what would be your event? Could you fold the fitted sheet?
I cannot do that. I cannot do that. I can probably make the bed in record time.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. Throw that mint on the pillow.
Yes.
You're very good at like running the room service and time.
Yes, and I could probably stock the bar in a decent amount of time too. Just keep me away from all the toilet stuff. I don't want to do any toilet events.
I hope there's not a part of that. I don't know. Yeah, I did not look at what the actual events are. You can only imagine, my friend. Were you pro? Thankfully, Matt Groening said that he assured fans Homer won't stop choking Bart. Simpsons has had to become so woke. I've been watching it for 30 goddamn years at this point. It's been around as long as I've been alive. They wouldn't bring a poo or they canceled a poo basically, shit like that. Yep. Crazy to me. But now they said that Homer would stop choking Bart, and I love that Matt Groening stuck to his guns and said, "Nope, that's not happening." Yes. It's part of the show. It's a fucking cartoon. Come on, there's so much cartoon violence out there. Get it together, people.
Also, every episode of The Simpsons streams on Disney Plus on Disney. Literally, me and my 6-year-old son yesterday were watching like season 4 of a Sideshow Bob when he ran for mayor and stuffed the ballots. Like those are the best episodes, or the politically incorrect ones, and those are the ones that the kids laugh about the most. Guess what? We turned out just fine. So keep choking away.
Keep choking away.
Speaking of shows and stuff, did you watch The Killer yet on Netflix?
No, I saw that you were a big fan of it. It's on my list. Probably this weekend I'll get on it.
Favorite movie of the year so far. Absolutely loved it. Shout out David Fincher, who obviously is my favorite director. Also, watch The Curse on Paramount Plus. If you're a Nathan Fielder fan, if you're a fan of his very weird comedy, or if you call it that, I don't know if you watched The Rehearsal on HBO last year, but he's got a new show out with Emma Stone right now and Benny Safdie from the Safdie brothers, and it's interesting. There's some penis involved. There's some HGTV parody involved. It's interesting. Watch The Curse.
Said Ross.
Yep.
I don't know what to do with that. Finally, Snoop Dogg says he's, quote, giving up smoke.
Yep.
What do you think that means, Ross?
That means
all edibles all the time?
I was going to say that means be prepared for that new line of Snoop Dogg edibles within a week. Tyson's got the ones that have the bitten off ear
that he has on retainer. What's that person gonna do? They're out of the job.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I applaud it. We are smarter about the way we inhale or indulge in our marijuana these days. So we want Snoop Dogg to stay around a lot longer and keep those lungs as healthy as possible. So if that means he has to transition to the live resin edible, God bless him.
I mean, there's some crazy fucking edibles out there that you would think pack a punch, but my God, if you're a fan of, I'm reading Joey Diaz's book right now, the great comedian, East Coast comedian, and he's notorious for just dosing people of like 500 milligrams, and I wouldn't come back from that. I would lose my mind. No, thank you. We'll end on that note, Ross. And of course, speaking of edibles, maybe pop one before Thanksgiving if you want to cut the tension. Have a good Thanksgiving, everybody. Looking forward to interesting. Ross is like, I'm in. Avoid the political conversation.
Deal with my family. I will do that.
That way, yeah. It'll be a nice small gathering for us. We'll see. Might not have to. Might be a post type of thing for Evan. We'll see. But thanks to everybody for watching, listening in. Of course, the audio only versions are on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Like, subscribe, tell a friend or two. Thanks to the commenters, of course. Follow the Barroom Network at Barroom Network. Follow me at 311 Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed on social media. Everybody be good to each other out there. We'll be off next week, back the following week. For now, we say deuces. So long, everybody.
Peace.
Thank you.